How to create a business continuity plan. You know what? We'll define it, and I'm going to tell you 2 fairly simple steps on what you need to do to get started. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that if we have a clear plan, anything becomes possible. And if you can have a clear plan, a clear process to create that plan, and a way to create clarity with your partner or spouse, you can drive to amazing heights. All right, so what exactly is a business continuity plan? Well, long story short, it's a system, it's a documented process, plan, whatever it may be, for the prevention and recovery or recovery of potential threats. Now, what those threats are going to vary dramatically from business to business to business. But the idea is that you want to be able to invest the time and energy to figure out, hey, what are these threats? What are these challenges? And then make sure that you're prepared for it in the right way. Now, if you're an ultra small business, well, there's some insurance things you can do. Big businesses can do it as well, but there are companies out there who do nothing but focus on business continuity. There are companies out there who do nothing but focus on technology, a cyber attack, business continuity. There are people out there who do it physically. So there's a ton of different ways to do it. But to get started, if you don't have a business continuity plan, fair enough, is what it is. You really probably need to address it. And the first step, we're just going to hit 2 steps. The first step is list out what are those things that if they happen, man, they are an extinction event for the organization. And we'll talk exactly what I mean by that. But start with what are the challenges, what are the things that are like, wow, this would wipe us out. Or 2, this is going to be extremely painful and difficult to adjust from. These may not be conversations you want to have, but they're absolutely critical conversations that you need to have. If you are a key person or key employee, or you're the business owner and you're the major person, you may want to get key person recovery insurance. There's insurance out there that specifically says if you get hit by a bus and you're incapacitated for 4 months, well, who's going to run the business? So to start with, as an example, I always start with people when we do business continuity. What are the key people that are there, and what happens if for some reason something bad happens to those people? Or people just get fed up and they quit, or who knows what it is, but what are those pieces? Now, we're going to do this is the issue, and then how do we mitigate that? What is our plan to solve it? So the first thing is create a list of what those things are. But as an example, people, all right, we're going to have cross-training. We may have key employee insurance. We may have backup training. We may even have backup people for those positions. But you want to have, if people are one of our main things, what happens there? That could be extinction events. Great. Let's make sure we understand what it is and put it next door. Now, if you were running a business during COVID and you had any sort of supply chain, well, you are very, very aware of what a supply chain shit show looks like. And there were companies out there who lost everything just because they couldn't get a certain part. There were literally hundreds of thousands of vehicles sitting around waiting for chips to go into the car. Everything else was done except for the one chip because they had supply chain issues that they did not come up with any sort of continuity plan or recovery plan if that happened. So this is where making sure if you have any sort of supply chain based business, and it could be with your equipment, it could be with inventory, it could be with supplies, who knows what it is, but trying to make sure that you at least have some other alternative, or maybe you have enough inventory on hand, or but thinking about, okay, we have supply chain, that is definitely something that we want to make sure we have some clear line of sight on a continuity plan with. Another one can be around cyber and data. This is an area that is under constant threat. If you have big databases or people or access, what happens if you get a malware in there and somebody from Russia steals it? Yeah, no, we're not going to give it back unless you give us his money. If you don't have an alternative, you're between a rock and a hard spot. So having some sort of continuity plan associated with whatever data you have or how people are getting in, making sure that you're consistent with that is going to be important. But that's supply chain, cyber, 2 very, very critical things we see a lot of. Another one that we see, especially if it depends on the locations, but what about physical? Are there, if you have physical locations, Do you have concerns with weather? Do you have concerns with flooding? Do you have concerns with fire? If you have a primary distribution center and a fire happened to rip through there, and that screws up 80% of your operation, well, we need to be aware of that. So thinking about what are the alternatives, what are the other ways that we can look at, not only do we want physical insurance, but we may want to have business continuity insurance associated with it as well. So talking with your insurance agent on these things is important. They can help you out a lot with that. You may also look at continuity around cash flow. I've seen companies where they started changing how they did their billing, or maybe they worked with much larger companies, and they were used to getting paid on a net 30, and then suddenly they're like, wow, we're only getting paid 120 days out. Whew, we don't have enough money. So a way of handling that would be proactively talking to bankers so that you can ensure the continuity, but you're also factoring in, maybe we're working with these bigger companies, but they don't pay for 120 days instead of 30 days, I'm gonna have to charge a little bit more. You start making sure that you're addressing those situations. And the last one is sometimes you need to be always looking at competition. From a continuity standpoint, I guarantee JCPenney's should have had more of a continuity plan when it came to how are they going to deal with companies like Amazon, because now JCPenney doesn't exist. They didn't look down the future to see what the changes were, so that they were always trying to come up with ways that they could be smarter and capitalize on it, even though they had a much bigger position to start. So when you think about it, if you can just, what are those things that are going to bite you in the butt? It's how are you going to perceive and avoid, or unfortunately, if need be, recover from those different threats. List out those threats, come up with ways that we're going to mitigate them, and then create a plan to start adjusting so that you're proactive with that. Usually where companies get bit in the ass is when they're going from a reactive state and they get clobbered. But if you can transition from a reactive to a proactive state, that to me is what's going to create a great business continuity plan. So ideally you found some value. If you have questions, always welcome to reach out at Aspiring Solopreneur. Love to hear from you. Please subscribe, share this, and don't be afraid of reaching out if you have any questions. Keep smiling.